Hey, everybody. I am David Bloom, co founder of Next TMT Newsletter and this here podcast, Next TMT Talks, with my partner and co founder, Daniel Frankel, as part of our weekly podcast with our partners over at Media Play News. Thanks for joining us. This is already a chock full week. We had ratings just come out a little bit ago for the Super Bowl 2 days back. Pretty good, pretty good, pretty good. 4.9 million viewers watched it across NBC, Peacock, Telemundo. And that's despite, I got to say, a defensive near stalemate that didn't make for the most exciting viewing. Bad Bunny did even better. This is, by the way, second all time behind last year's Philadelphia Kansas City thing. So any thoughts on your end, Daniel, about just the Super Bowl ratings and Bad Bunny, despite the counter programming by that fearless woke battler Kid Rock and a crew of country singers you really haven't heard much about?
I have to admit I was influenced by Colby Hall, who founded Mediaite. He also writes pretty interesting columns for them. And his take was that both the extreme right and extreme left were ridiculous. It was an effing halftime show that we made way too much about. I think in the end, these things are spectacles. That was a pretty good spectacle.
That was a
Well
pretty good spectacle, yeah.
Great
Yeah, and I say
performance.
that wearing my spectacles, so believe me, I know spectacles. I've been wearing them since I was 9. Normally, I'm wearing contact lenses as thick as dinner plates, but you hit it right there, I think, on the nose, which is he put on a good show despite the grumpiness of MAGA rightists, who still, I think, there's some indications that at Mar-a-Lago during the Super Bowl party, they were watching Bad Bunny.
I think the quality of Kid Rock. I forgot the name of his hit.
Right.
He got a few. It came out in '99. It's kind of a hip hop infused rap thing.
Yeah.
It's good. I remember,
Ba or something like that. Ba with
uh,
ba.
he's
Yeah.
had better days. He's now lip syncing it. Even the guys who tuned into that thing said it wasn't as good as what I wanted.
Yeah. Right.
The competitive effort side.
And it was not particularly, let's just say it wasn't overly produced. It came together in a rather modest fashion. I'll just say that gently. So as spectacle goes, it was not very spectacular. Bunnies was all kinds of stuff going on. He had Lady Gaga and Ricky Martin and other random folks of great fame pop up, and it's kind of like Easter eggs, essentially. Though Gaga sang a really lovely song in English. But 128 million viewers, also down, I might add,
Here's where it
from
worked.
Kendrick Lamar. But,
Telemundo just put out a release saying they had their biggest Super Bowl audience, Spanish language audience in history.
yeah, record all time for them. But, of course, the thing that's really interesting about that is it peaked at halftime during the Bad Bunny show at 4.8 million viewers. That's a big number for Telemundo. So that's a win all the way around, it seems to me.
The argument for doing it, you expand the audience.
Right.
Bring in
Yeah, from a
people
business standpoint, which is supposedly what Mr. Art of the Deal is all about, it's good business. I'm not sure what he's been doing is necessarily good business long term. It's a little bit, to be frank, a little bit like some of the stuff that Pete Wilson did back in the 90s that was designed to stomp out all the Latino, Spanish speakers and all that in California. Since then, he's turned the Republican Party in California into a vestigial stump. So this may not work out in the long run. Whereas I think for the Super Bowl, Bad Bunny did what Bad Bunny needed to do for the Super Bowl. And for Apple, the sponsor, not that we were worried about Apple's next meal or Tim Cook's next meal. Shares are up and they're doing just fine.
Well, I didn't see, maybe you know this. Is there a specific breakout for Peacock? I think the line to beat.
I haven't seen that yet because these numbers are hot off the Nielsen presses. So I did not see anything for Peacock in particular. I think it was still aggregated. I do think it's interesting to mention that we've got the lead in into the Olympics, which they've been showing since Friday night, was pretty darn good. 42 million viewers for the main primetime shows. That's the best in a decade, more than a decade, since 2014, up 73% from 4 years ago when they had the Super Bowl and the Beijing Olympics, which were less viewed than what's going on with the Olympics here. So again, I think NBC is rocking toward a pretty great week because they got the NBA All-Star game, the NBA No Defense, What Us? And this time it features a little bit different setup, U.S. World.
That's a great format.
It's a great format. And given the fact that I think the last 5 MVPs of the league have all, been foreign born, including Shea
No, and of course,
Gilgeous-Alexander,
with
who's from
the
yeah,
NHL has formatted their, All-Star game that way for years, and
right,
it's
right.
record numbers.
But technically, hockey, a Canadian game that has flourished in Scandinavia and Russia and places like that, whereas basketball, Springfield, Massachusetts, et cetera, it's supposed to be the U.S. game, but it has been become an international game. And so,
I don't know if,
again, I think it's a really
he's
I
hurt.
think
I don't
it's
know if
really
he's played, but if you have SGA, the Joker, Nikola
yeah,
Jokovic, Denver,
yeah,
and you've
yeah,
got Luka Doncic,
Giannis,
if you put those guys on a team,
it's a pretty good team.
Canadians are, I think, are a little bit of trouble, I think.
Yeah, I mean, you got Luka Doncic, Jokic, Antetokounmpo, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, and there's somebody else that's escaping me who's also pretty darn good. It's a pretty loaded team, and so it'll be interesting to see what the U.S. team how it fares. But
Jordan,
it's an
Magic,
exhibition.
Bird back.
Yeah, exhibition. It might though do for the NBA what it really wants to do, what Adam Silver really wants to do, which is again build that international audience. They are pushing into Europe in a bigger way. They've got this Chinese league already. They've got an African NBA program that's pretty richly providing. Oh, I know who it was. It was the amusing fellow from Cameroon who plays for the Philadelphia 76ers and finally has functioning knees again. So they've they've got some serious players on that world team, but getting the world audience further locked in is really smart. So NBC should reap the benefits, I think.
When's the Pro Bowl? Do we know? Does anybody watch that still?
The Pro Bowl in football,
Yeah.
I think it is transformed into Saturday morning before the Super Bowl flag football skills contests, which tells you how few people watched. This is a sport, the NFL, where the draft is bigger than NBA playoff games, except maybe the finals.
Yeah, it's a difficult game to exhibition after
Ah, after you've
7
lost,
games worth of playoffs of
yeah,
brutality. So,
yeah, I can
speaking of
totally get behind
brutality,
that. Yeah.
I keep seeing people reference spaghetti on the wall about Paramount's latest counteroffer.
Well, I like pasta. I'm not sure the Warner Brothers board will like this spaghetti. I mean, it's actually interesting because they have not increased the total price per share. But they do have a little function that says if it takes us, every quarter longer than the end of this year, it takes us to close the deal, we'll add 25 cents to the share price. So that's like
Well, they
600
probably
million
watched
in
last
value.
week's congressional hearings and said this could get drawn out. Hey, Warner Brothers shareholders, how'd you like something that might go a little faster?
Right. Well, but the flip side still becomes, and I think this is actually the really important thing. The other thing is that they'll upfront pay for the go away money on both sides for both Warner Brothers and Netflix to make the deal go away. And that's not inconsequential. It's like $5.8 billion. So more money than I make in a week, even with this here podcast, which I know is hard from our beloved listeners to believe. But that being said, it's a fair chunk of change, but it is not material to the value of the deal in terms of its straight costs. And they still haven't bumped that up, which I think a lot of people are still waiting. Now we've got a shareholders meeting set for second week of March. It could wiggle a week, but the shareholder meeting would be to vote on finalizing the deal and moving forward. They still haven't pulled people over in large numbers. It's less than 10% still. So I don't know if this is going to be enough to move, I don't know, maybe move the ball, but I don't know. It doesn't, I don't have tens of millions of shares of Warner Brothers Discovery or anything else. So it'll be interesting. Now, there was some conversation on CNBC this morning saying, does this slightly sweetened deal, a lot of little bits that are, they're consequential bits of money when you add them together, but they're not core to the value of the deal. But by kind of closing off those downsides, does it force the board to have to do a renewed consideration of their offer under the so-called Revlon requirements for boards to do good faith reviews of the value under their fiduciary responsibilities of the value of the deal? And again, and not a lawyer, don't be taking my legal advice, except don't shoot anybody. Unless you're Donald Trump, then you can do anything you want. I don't think this puts it into that territory. Anything's possible in court, depending on the judge and how much they've had to drink that morning. But I don't think we're quite there yet. So when do the Ellisons up the price? Any thoughts?
I think It's a long battle. They're probably waiting to see. We know kind of how Congress views it, which is probably an indicator of how the DOJ will respond. It's a long fight. Keep your back pocket. You don't want to start upping the price right now.
Right.
It'll be too high by the time this thing ends.
Well, it's safe to say they may be already overpaying given the fact that the shares were trading at $11 to $12 a share. They're now valued by the Ellisons at 30.
Starting to come up.
Yeah, so it's already up almost 3 times, so it's not like they're overpaying already. But, I mean, I get your point, which is keep some powder in your horn still so you can take one last shot. It's still gonna have an enormous amount of debt.
Yeah, they're overpaying. If you're overpaying now, wait till you get to the end of this thing.
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, an enormous amount of debt, and Warner Brothers leadership really knows how much fun that is to operate with. They've had their hands tied as they've been retrenching and retrenching for ever since 2022. So I can get why they might be a little gun shy about still more. That's like, we cut a lot, we cut a lot of stuff here. Do you want to cut 6 billion more? Okay. Not like we're running around with lots of extra fat at this point. I mean, maybe there's certainly some, but at a certain point, what are you cutting? What's left? Well, that arm was overused. We didn't need that arm.
Exactly.
Those 3 feet, that's so important. So we'll see, but it's another turn of the screw, and we'll see if Netflix holds pat or if they have some backdoor conversations with the board to maybe sweeten it on their end slightly in some fashion.
Speaking of turn of the screw, what do you say we get out of it?
You were going to say what else?
That's it. I was saying, let's point it up.
Okay, well, let's wind this puppy up then. It's so much to talk about, and yet our listeners have other things to listen to as well. So with that, I will wrap this puppy up, and I will say thank you all for listening. You can sign up for this podcast on YouTube. You can listen to it on audio only on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and beyond. Free, free, free. You can sign up for our weekly newsletter, which comes out on Monday mornings in your mailbox at Next TMT. And that's M as in media, TMT.com, and get it delivered and find all kinds of goodness. And we strongly recommend you like, share, repost, all those kinds of things. So thank you. I'm David Bloom with Next TMT Talks and my co-founder, Daniel Frankel, here on behalf of Media Play News. Thanks, everybody.